but I'm going to get started. But before I start, I didn't check with him ahead of time here, but we have one of our council members on, Council Member David Friedendahl. I don't know if you want to say anything, Council Member, before we start.
Okay, well, thank you, Joe. And I'm just on this to learn so I can be aware of the requirements, and thank you for doing this. And I think it's a common opinion of the council and the city that we wanted to put these funds available to the people and the businesses first, and capital improvement things, down the stream. So the most important thing is to figure out what we can do to sustain our businesses and our residents. So thank you for doing this and for managing it and giving us this opportunity. Very grateful.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, and again, thank you for your support of this program. For those that didn't see at the council meeting when it was approved this past week, it was a unanimous support. So our city leadership is definitely looking out for our local businesses here and willing to get this program going. What I see Valerie got on here, but I'm going to kind of start with this. With the grant, there's two contacts, myself from the chamber and then Valerie Velasquez from the city. I don't know if Valerie, if you want to say anything or at this point.
No, I just want to say, as you mentioned, that the city is very interested in making sure we offer this support to the business community and all of the nonprofits that do so much for our residents and the community. So we are definitely here to assist, and hopefully many people take advantage of it.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, we're going to get started. This really won't take too long. But if anybody has questions throughout the presentation, just use the raise hand icon and I can call on you. And should be pretty self-explanatory. Okay, just kind of a little timeline. Back in March, President Biden signed in the American Recovery Plan Act, or ARPA, as I'm going to call it. And then basically the next day, I approached some of our council and said, hey, what can we do for our businesses? Kind of started that discussion. And right away it was like, yeah, we got to do something. So there really wasn't much question about it. Not until May, funds were actually started to come out, but with basically no direction on what to do with them. So from the federal government. So then May, the city received the first half. And this was all discussed at the council meetings and stuff too. So, but then we got the first half and really didn't have any direction on what to do with it yet, which didn't come from the federal government until about June, July timeline. But then it had to be reviewed and then noticed before going to council, discussed, and came back with a plan. And on October 12th, the unanimously approved to offer this program and other projects, which I'll show you here. What was approved last week was, as you see on the screen, there's the total amount that is expected to be received by next year is the $7,525,063. The first tranche, the first half was received, kind of allocated as seen here. This all came right off the council meeting. And as Councilmember Friedendahl mentioned, we really want to look at the business part first. So that's what we're working on, the middle there. Support for-profit businesses, $1 million, nonprofit, $500,000, and then I'll go through the details there. So that's kind of how the money is set up at this point. Okay, what we're going to talk about today is the City of Glendora COVID-related Small Business Rescue Grant Program. The chamber is partnering with the city to help administer this, advertise it, get the applications, and then send them over for review and approval. The grants will be from $5,000 to $25,000. And I know in talking with businesses, some businesses need more than 25,000, I'm sure. But we really wanted to try to help as many people as possible, as many businesses as possible. So there is that kind of a cap from 5 to 25, which $25,000 is pretty good, you know, so, but that's the grant sizes. Now, the main question is, how much do you qualify for? How do we determine that? It's basically pretty simple. We're looking at income from 2019 and 2020. So as an example, the easiest way, using tax returns, if in 2019 a business had revenue of 171,000, but then in 2020 they had 143,000. Everybody sees my screen, right? I'll just double check. Okay, good. I should check first. So they'd be down 28,000, right? Pretty simple math. Now the maximum grant will be 25,000, even though the reduction was 28. So that's what we would look at, that number. Then on the other one, let's say there was only $11,000 reduction. The maximum grant for that situation would be 11,000. Because we're this program really just trying to make up for the loss. Now I know, even though the income may have gone down that much, and in most cases your expenses have gone up, you know, cost of goods has gone up, so maybe your net loss might be higher, but for this program at this point we're looking at the income. Okay, can also determine this based on 1 quarter bank statements from 2019 and 1 quarter bank statements from 2020 to determine that loss. It's a little more difficult. It may be a smaller amount too. So it's much easier and a better look at it using the tax returns, but bank statements can be used too if that's the way you can do it. So we'll let there's questions about that, you can ask one of us, and we'll work through it. So moving on, eligibility requirements. Have to be a for-profit or nonprofit business located in Glendora. Business must be in a commercial space. So at this point, like home-based type don't qualify for this. Business does not have to be a chamber member. You know, we're administrative, but you don't have to be a chamber member to do it. That's not a problem. And the residential or real estate projects or short-term, you know, Airbnb type of things aren't eligible for this. So, and all this is in the guidelines too, that I will show you where they're at when we're done. For the program, the business must have a license, have an active business license since March of 2019. Let's see if someone else coming in here. If the business license is not current, it may be a condition of grant approval. So, which, you know, people, you know, income's down, people may not have been able to pay for their license yet, but through this, it could be a condition to get that done. Now, there was that we found newer businesses. I know of a few that started like right when the shutdown happened. Now they haven't been around since March of 2019. For those, there may be opportunities for reimbursement for COVID related stuff. So there is that kind of caveat to the requirements. So if you have that situation, you know, talk with us, and we can kind of work through that and see what could be done. So I'll continue here. With the program, the businesses must have at least 1 employee, but no more than 25 full-time equivalents. So you could have, you know, 50 part-time, but up to 25. Now with the nonprofits, there is a exception for that. So if you are a nonprofit, you don't have a paid employee, we can work with you on that too. So there's just different financial requirements, which I'll go over in a little bit. Business must be in good standing with the city, no current violations and that type of stuff. So, which hopefully everybody's like that. And you must have experienced a mandatory shutdown or substantial demonstrated change in your business operations due to the COVID pandemic. So, I mean, pretty much every business has had that issue of some sort, but so yeah, you just have to show that, which I should go through the documentation, how that happens. And then the application, as it says there, must be able to show it. Moving on. The business must provide the complete application with all the documentation, which I'll go over in a minute. And again, the requested amount up to 25,000 cannot exceed the lost revenue. So we're just trying to make up the loss. And then city employees and elected officials aren't eligible to participate. So any council members that have businesses that just can't qualify. Let's see, there was one chat to see, will business that have negative revenue be excluded from this program? That have negative revenue? No, I mean, we're looking at the loss or the difference between 2019 and 2020. So if I'm reading that right, if 2019 you were positive a number, but 2020 you were negative, that is a reduction. So, but we can look at your situation individually. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. Okay, moving on. Now, what can these funds be used for? Rent, mortgage. It can be past due rent. If you're behind, because a lot of businesses are or have been, or looking forward. So it can be used for that. Utility bills, behind or forward. Payroll. Facade improvement. This is a good one. If you're planning on doing something, or is there an improvement of a public facing area, so street front, to improve, access due to the COVID, operational changes like restaurant with the outside dining, that type of stuff. Those could qualify. PPE, of course, expenses for outdoor operations, as I mentioned. Hiring bonus. This one is these payments actually go to the employee, but within that $25,000 cap, as we all know, it's been difficult hiring people, right? I see about every business that has a for hire, now hiring signs. What this is kind of an incentive, so you can promote, come work for us, we have a job for you, and after 6 months, that employee can get a bonus through this program of the $1,500. So it's trying to use this as an incentive to help you hire employees. So that's how that part works. And then also the other things with all the COVID mandates and all the new rules, employment laws and stuff, everybody's employee handbook should be updated. And so those expenses, which could be a couple $100 to a lot more than that, can qualify for this as a reimbursement or something you're going to do. So we have that also. Let me check, no questions. Okay, good. Oh, John.
Actually, two questions. First, on the revenue, I'm presuming that if we got a PPP loan, that's not included in revenue.
No, we're looking at the tax return. I mean, it's not sales.
We're nonprofit, so we wouldn't have a tax return. But so would the PPP loan proceeds be counted as part of revenue?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, unless
no, go ahead.
We'll double check on that. Yeah. And I think just to keep in mind, if you did receive PPE, there should be no double dipping in whatever you're using the funds for. So whatever you use those funds for, this program would also not cover.
Sure. And then the second question with respect to the expenses to enhance outdoor operations, is that only for future, or because we had to, because of COVID, obviously, we had, we're a church, so we had to we had pretty significant expenses so we could have outdoor services. And so, but those expenses already occurred. So would we be able to use the monies to essentially reimburse ourselves for the expenses we already had, or is it just for future expenses?
No, it could be used for reimbursement for things you weren't already reimbursed for.
Okay,
Like if
yes,
you didn't apply for another grant, you already paid for it.
correct.
You know, like as Valerie mentioned, the double dipping. So yeah,
Okay,
which
great,
that's
thank
what, which I'll go over when you go through the application. If that's what you're applying for, you just have that paid invoice in there, kind
Got
of
it.
your proof, and we go forward.
Okay, perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Let's see, I went through all this part. Okay. Oh, Seton, you got a question?
Yeah, just real quickly, on the same subject with the reimbursement, for the nonprofits, if their donations and revenue didn't necessarily decrease in 2019, but it's starting to decrease now, does that apply, or does it have to be a decrease within calendar year of 2019?
Well, it's from looking at 2019 to 2020. So we look at where it was in 2019, and then the decrease going into 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so through the end of, so anywhere from that those 2 calendar years, from the period of 2019 to the end of 2020, if they saw a decrease, it would probably apply. And the 25,000, the amount of the grant cannot exceed the amount of the decrease in revenues.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, from the 990 forms. Yeah. Okay. Okay, kind of moving on. Documentation. I'll kind of go over what the application looks like, which after this will actually show you the 3-page application. So it's about as easy as it could be, I believe. What you will need, this is for the for-profit. The application and your spending plan, which there is a section on the application that has spending plan, but if you want to add documents to it, invoices or bills or that just for your proof of use of funds, current business license, most recent bank statement, just one, and the W-9 for the business, which if you don't have one of those, there is a link to it on our site to download it right from the IRS webpage. And then as mentioned before, one of the following, the 2019-2020 tax returns or the bank statements. And again, it's definitely much easier with the tax returns because we just look at the right line and find the difference. So that's the application for this program. I mean, for those that have tried to do or have done the CDBG grants in the past, this is so much less. So it shouldn't be too much difficult, too difficult. Moving forward here, nonprofit program. This one's a little bit different in documentation. With this, we'll need your IRS 501c3 determination letter. I know with churches, I'm not a professional on all church finance, but sometimes they don't have 501c3 letters, but are automatically determined as that, since you can deduct donations and such, but we're just confirming what's needed for that. The completed app, spending plan again, business license, this is another thing, not all nonprofits have one, so we're working with that individually. Most recent bank statement, W-9, and then the big difference is where we find that reduction in income is from Form 990s on 2019 and 2020. And then the operating budget 2019 and 2020, which this is where, let's say you're a service or the Masons or something. 2019, this is what your budget, this is what you're doing. 2020, your budget dropped because you couldn't do your fundraisers. You couldn't raise funds for this specific program that was Glendora based. That's kind of where we show how COVID affected your organization. So that's why those are needed. Because if it shows the same, then there's really no loss. So those are the nonprofits. No questions? Okay, I'll move forward. The actual grant applications, it's on the chamber website and the city website. The one on the chamber, I just made a domain, made it easier to remember, glendorabusinessgrant.com, or you can go to cityofglendora.org. On both home pages of the chamber and the city, right on the top, there's a large image that says grant program or rescue grant program. And it'll go same information, same documents to download. There's a guidelines, which gives you all the details, and then the application for both for-profit and nonprofit. So no questions. Okay. Let me just kind of show you real quick the actual for-profit application, how easy it is. First page is just basic business information, as seen here. You know, what kind of business you are, that type of stuff, name, EIN number or social security number. Page 2, the top part kind of asks, why are you applying? How were you affected by the pandemic? Some demographic stuff. And then the bottom is your grant request, the spending plan. This is where, you know, enter what you're applying for, what you qualify for, what you're going to use for it. If for example, you know, rent or utility bills are past due, there are boxes for that to show this is going to be paying past due, and you just fill that out. If additional pages are needed for explanation or invoices or something, you would just attach it. Now with this, you don't need a dissertation or anything, but it's just the details so we can have documented proof on what the grant is going to be for. And then the last page is just to help you, the checklist on the different things that will be in your application and the acknowledgements that you know, this grant is being provided by the City of Glendora based on the information you're providing, and then you attest that you have no more than 25 employees. The loss has been between 2020 and 2019, and so on and so forth, and that you agree and authorize the city and the chamber to process and verify all sources of the application. Sign it, date it, put it with the rest of the documents, and turn it into me. Now it's much easier if it's all together, all at one time, so things don't get lost, because sometimes we get 10 emails with 10 different things and it just makes it a little more difficult. So, but whatever is easier for you to get these in, and then I'll review them as fast as possible and push them forward. Let's see, no other questions so far. Okay. So again, just the kind of the process: deliver your application to the chamber. I'll review it, package it up, send it over to Valerie, and then she'll review it. And then if there's anything in these updates or additional information, she'll let me know, and then I'll work with you to get that. Go through the approval. Then after it's approved, the city puts together the agreement that you're getting such and such amount of money for these items, and to know you have a year to take care of that. Depending on your spending plan, that gets signed, and then finance department of the city issues a check. Then after that, chamber follow up with you, because you have a year to kind of do what you're getting the grant for. Now, if it's faster than that, you're just reimbursing things, or, you know, it's not a whole year, I work with you to get that compliance part set. And and it'll be done. So that's the process to do this. Any questions? Yeah, Jack.
Good morning, sir. So I have a question for you. So mine, as you know, I recently got here, so been in business prior to 2019, moved from LA to Glendora, well, LA County, unincorporated to Glendora. So I'm gonna assume someone like myself does not qualify for this, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it not based on the 2019, 2020. Now, if you had an operation that had some of those COVID related expenses, PPE type, you know, we can work with you on that.
Well,
But
no, I
it
mean,
just-
I'm not, I know I'm gonna have a reduction a quarter, first
Mhm.
quarter. I mean, I'm not worried about that part of
Yeah.
it. Your qualifier was that you have to be in Glendora.
Yeah,
I think it was May of 2019. Can't remember the exact. date. You
March,
gotta-
yeah, March of 2019. Yeah,
That's right. So I was not, because I
Yeah.
just got here in July. So,
yeah, it's too soon to be,
okay, just thought I'd ask.
okay. Like someone else is coming in now. Yeah, other questions? No? Okay, let's see. Well, oh, David, yes, sorry.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Valerie, for your input. I think something to be recognized is that when we were given our number from ARPA as to how much money we would have to allocate to these types of programs, we just budgeted based on what we thought would be a reasonable assessment and allocation. If for some reason one of those budgeted allocations gets exhausted, it may not be done. We can always go back and revisit some of our plans and allocate additional funds to this particular program if it's having that much success. So I just don't want people to think that it's first come, first serve. When the bucket's empty, that may be the end of the bucket. It may not be the end of the bucket. So just give them the hope that there's opportunity out there to get as many people served as we can.
Great, thank you very much for mentioning that. Yeah, it's, so I definitely recommend people applying, you know, especially if you qualify. And if there's question in regards to qualification, just let us know. And then we can work with you one-on-one to figure out how best to get something to you. Because really, this is to really help our business community, and we really want to try to do what we can to get these funds out. So, any other questions or final thoughts? No? Okay, well, that was quick and easy, 30, half hour. But I will be putting this video on the website too, if anybody want to review it. But like I mentioned, please let us know if you have any questions or to see how best to qualify. Okay, great. Thank you very much, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye.